In today's video, we are going to talk over the things we learned from Chelsea 3, Club America 0. We're going to discuss a few individual performances that I was really impressed with, a few tactical intricacies that I was impressed with or just glad to see, and just generally speak over the game, and then I will also ask for questions at the end. So if you have any questions, go and put them in the comment section and I'll try to get to those later on today. So we had a bit of a different lineup for last night's game. We had Malo Gusto starting at left back and inverting into midfield from left back alongside Romeo Lavia. That left the back three as follows: Badiashile at left centre back, Tosin at central centre back, and Reece James as the right centre back. We then in the first half got to see our first 45 minutes of Kiernan Juby Hall, who was playing in that sort of left number 8 left half space role, and Kunku in that right half space role, which Carney Chukwuemeka has been playing in the last few games. Madueke on the right, Sterling on the left, and Gui leading the line. We continue to see the same shapes we've been seeing in the last few games, which I've been speaking about, and I'm actually going to do a live stream tomorrow to speak about the framework that we've seen in all three games and compare all of these against each other, so from game to game, and see if anything's changed. But it's all looking quite similar in these pictures, forming that deep 4-2 block and having one of the 8s drop a tiny bit deeper than the other 8, and again, those 8s are in there to receive in those pockets. So here it's Juby Hall, on the other side it would be Kunku, who's just out of shot, and their job is to create a passing angle straight into them so that you can play through, but also just to be in an area where they can drag players away with them using their movement. Something that was good to see was a little bit of a narrower back three, because at times the other day, or at least against Celtic, and sort of against Wrexham as well, the wide centre-backs were playing more or less as nominal full-backs, and it was leaving massive gaps between the three. So it was good to see them playing in a bit closer proximity, with the pivot still narrow, nice and narrow in the middle. And again, as you can see with that pink circle in the top left, you can see Juby Hall and Sterling basically occupying one player, and this all comes down to Juby Hall's intelligence in this system, which we're going to get onto in a bit. But the first player I wanted to praise was Malo Gusto, playing in the inverted role. So many people tried to tell me that he couldn't play in this role, and I was trying to tell people that he's got the technical security to play in this role of abundance. His ability, his athleticism as well off the ball, and his ability to press in the right times, use that athleticism, as I say, that ground covering ability that he has with that long stride, and his tackling ability in the middle of the pitch, and then just his, like I say, his abundance of technical quality to play passes, drive through the middle of the pitch, make these marauding runs from midfield, and again, progress play by driving through the middle of the pitch with these progressive carries. There's so much to Malo Gusto's game that we're still even yet to see, and it was just brilliant to see him really getting the praise he deserves in that role last night. Here was a great example of his intelligence, where both the pivot players started a little bit higher up to occupy the opposition central midfielders. But then, as you can see from the arrow, Gusto makes that darting run a little bit deeper to stagger that pivot so that he can then play the ball. He can either drop it back off to the defence, or he can play that ball forwards on the half turn into someone like Romeo Lavia, or even turn and try and find Juby Hall. So that starting point to then drag midfielders with him away from the ball, or away from the number 8 receivers, to make space for others with his movement, but also to help circulate play. And again, this is just high IQ and intelligence within the system. Again, we'll speak more about the out-of-possession structure more in general in a bit, but Malo Gusto here, jumping out of that back line. So as you can see, Madueke is actually helping form that back four now, because he's dropping in as that defensive winger, which allows Gusto to drop out and put pressure on the ball. And again, he's very good at doing this, again, due to that athleticism, and then he's able to recover. So it's a very good thing to see with Gusto playing on either side, that he can do this role perfectly, and he has the athleticism and energy to do both roles and jump out when needed. The next player I wanted to praise was Romeo Lavia, who was absolutely excellent. The press resistance he showed in the middle of the pitch, scanning around, playing forward passes, being progressive with his passing, the athleticism again to recover and when to jump out from that pivot role, because again, he's playing in a very important role where he can jump out to aid the press when he needs to, but also cover areas behind the other number 8s midfielders when he's playing in that lone 6 role. So it's important that using that athleticism, and again, it allows Chelsea to win the ball back and then create attacks in transition, which again, he's brilliant at using that progressive passing of his. He's carrying to win the penalty as well. He literally has it all, and he is a gem of a midfielder, and he was absolutely superb last night. Also deserving of praise was Kiernan Juby Hall. As I said, the main thing that stands out with Juby Hall is just his understanding of the system, his timing of runs, his timing of when to drop deep to receive the ball, when to run in behind to create space for others, when to drop into that pocket so that he becomes an extra receiver and build up and creates that +1. You can just tell he's played in Maresca's system before, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Maresca even came out and said he's speaking a different language to all the players, because he just knows exactly where to be at all times. Maresca notices it, and again, this is why he's a floor-raising signing. He already knows the system, he implements seamlessly, and you could see that on the pitch. Yes, some of his actions weren't actually at the top level yesterday, still managed to get an assist, still could have had another assist with that little pass in behind for Malo Gusto, who actually got a shot on target, saved, but then he ended up getting that goal from this area, actually, where Juby Hall made that inseam run behind. And again, this is just an example of Sterling dropping deep. This is when Juby Hall knows, right, I can make that run into the channel now, gets the ball, puts the ball into the box for Gusto, and he gets the assist. And as we spoke about earlier, it's just this intelligence. He knows Sterling is occupying the fullback, so by drawing himself out to here too, he creates that 2v1 tension, so that when one of them does drop into the pocket, whether Sterling drops a bit deeper to receive the ball or Juby Hall, that defender then has to make a decision whether to stay with one of the men or to follow the other, which means one of them will be a free receiver in that +1. And again, this is just intelligence from Juby Hall, knowing the system, and again, being that wide pocket receiver. You can see it in this image here, with that 4-2 build-up in the deep areas with the goalkeeper involved. Those pocket eights dropping into the space to receive the ball. He knows exactly where to be. He knows exactly when to make those runs away from that space, when to make those runs into that space. And he's just a perfect player for Maresca's system, at least in the short term, at absolute minimum, but probably in the long term, just in the sense of he's always going to be able to play that role and do exactly what is asked of him within that role. We also got our first glimpse of Enzo Fernandez playing as one of those number 8s. It was actually as the right-sided number 8. So I'd like you to let me know in the comments down below what you made of this performance, because I found it quite interesting. Another interesting note, he took the armband when Reece James went off. Yes, there was no Levi Colwill on the pitch, and Chilwell wasn't on the pitch at the time, but Enzo kept the armband. So that's something very interesting to keep an eye out for. I do still think that Levi might be the vice-captain if Chilwell does leave, or if Maresca decides to change hands with the captaincy. But it's one to keep an eye on because Enzo is clearly viewed as one of the captains. I won't rabbit on about how much I prefer Enzo as that number 6, because I've said that all pre-season, I've said it in all my streams, and why I want to see him in that number 6 Harry Winks role with lots more touches. But I will point out that receiving in these pockets of space, like I said, those sort of deep-lying number 8 pockets where they drop in, receive the ball, and to progress from there, this is something Enzo can do really well using his passing range. And this circle here and where he's receiving the ball in this area and where he's offering as an option, this gives him a lot of space and time to get his head up, look forward and use that progressive passing range, as I said, or even carry the ball forwards and start transition attacks for Chelsea. And now we're just going to roll through a few out-of-possession images and things that we can talk about here. As we've said before, Madueke playing as that defensive winger. And again, I think Maresca's going to love him because he's doing that role and he's really buying into that role. Lavia, again, dropping deeper to cover those other midfielders. And as you can see with the white box, they're trapping that side of the pitch. And again, another example here, you're trying to lock off one side of the pitch so that they have to play down that side, and you're trying to then force them long or force them into a player that has a man on their back so you can win the ball back and then retain possession yourselves. Again, this example basically forming this 5-3-2, Madueke in that deeper position. You've got the 2 strikers, so Nkunku's actually pushed out of that now. But when that is not in a 5-3-2, it will actually form into what looks a little bit more like a 5-4-1. But here you've actually got a 4-4-2 as well, where again it's a bit staggered with Lavia and the height of Juby Hall. But you can see the 2 wingers, and Nkunku's jumped out from that midfield 4, which is where he would be sort of between Lavia and where Nkunku is now if it was a bit deeper. And we started to see that diamond shape, which you saw a lot in the Euros. A lot of teams doing this during the Euros. The 2 wingers slightly deeper than that more advanced midfielder. Again, Lavia covering those central areas and Nkunku jumping up to form that 2 in attack. So there's a few different shapes that we can see with that man-to-man system, with that man-to-man marking system. And it all depends on how the opposition will be playing. Again, here, another example of locking off that side of the pitch. Once you've got that ball towards that and you've got the sideline as another defender, essentially, that's when you sort of commit towards that side of the pitch and try to force them to either go long or force it into a player with a man on their back so that you can try and force a turnover. Again, a very good example here. Malo Gusto trying to basically curve his run so that he's locking off that side of the pitch, which is why other players are then starting to commit themselves towards the other side of the pitch. We've got one of the centre-backs, I think that's Tosin, has actually jumped up as well to stick with man-to-man, again, so that if that ball does go into one of those attackers or opposition players, you've got a man on their back so you can try to turn the ball over quickly, regain possession, and then play from there. So these are very good signs, and it was timed quite a lot better, and the timing's only going to get better as we get more and more sessions and more reps under our belt with Enzo Maresca. And lastly, just a shout out for Mark Yu, who also got on the score sheet. He scored the second goal of a nice little header from that Juby Hall cross, and that's his first goal in a Chelsea shirt, which he deserved because he's been very good in pre-season. So what did you guys make of this pre-season game? Our first win under Enzo Maresca, 3-0, some very good performances, as I've spoken about. Let me know if you have any questions about the tactics, any questions about certain personnel. I'll try to get round to them. I'm going to be doing a stream tomorrow to assess all 3 of the games so far and the framework that we've seen within them. So make sure you join that, drop a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.